There will be no V-shaped recovery, the Greatest Depression has just begun. This is the worst recession since the Great Depression. The US economic crisis is even worse than it appears. Over the last few months, we have seen interest rates plunging to zero, trillions of dollars have been printed into our economy to help lift it back to life, toilet paper is now the hottest commodity of all time. The Fed is making sure the stock market can't lose. They have messed up the stock market by artificially inflating it. Today's jobs report fills in a picture of devastating unemployment nationwide not seen since the Great Depression. 100 million people are out of the labor force. The official unemployment rate is about 14.7%, but if you dig below the numbers, it's really around 22% when you consider the tens of millions who have lost their jobs. And by the way, that data is now a couple weeks old. It's probably even higher than that. Unemployment stimulus runs out in July. Chaos will begin. We're now living in a world where hugging is considered an act of biological terrorism. And this is clearly going to have a lingering economic impact. Countless small businesses closed last month. Many of them will never reopen. Even big businesses will be downsizing and laying off big time. Retail, which makes up roughly 10% of the workforce, is dying. This will impact the real estate market with so many shops and malls going under. The economic crisis also means that the demand for food stamps will swell. Tens of millions of Americans are food insecure right now. And all of their numbers are growing. Mile-long lines at food banks. 40 million Americans live on food stamps, as so-called SNAP benefits. They are rationing food. If this goes on much longer, then we could start to see actual starvation in America. We are doing far much worse than any developed nation. Prior to the crisis, about 11% of Americans suffered from food insecurity. And we have every reason to believe that those statistics are increasing dramatically in the current time period. Even when the economy reopens, people don't have money to spend because so many jobs are gone. Most Americans are out of work and out of money. So they will not be eating out, shopping for new clothes or cars, buying houses or boats or even TV sets. Our economy is spiraling downward, and no one can say how or when it will recover. A lot of business will be closed down after the lockdown. Jobs and businesses are not coming back. War with China is coming. I give it 18 months. Geopolitical tensions will precipitate rapid exit from US-denominated debt instruments and the US dollar. We are in for a slow, long recovery, rather than an immediate bounce back. There will be no V-shape recovery. According to economist Mohamed El-Arian, the GDP for this year will contract anywhere from 10% to 14%. We are going to have the worst recession since the Great Depression. It will make 2008-9 looks like a flesh wound, says El-Arian. Economist Paul Krugman from his side, says the country's economy is in a medically induced coma that will go on for some time and that the country isn't close to fully reopening. And yet the bounce in the S&P 500 looks rather V-shaped at the moment. Is it worth throwing good money after bad on this collapse? Or is there nothing the Fed and its friends from BlackRock Inc. can't fix with a few extra $1 trillion and counting? Let's see what follows this 50% retracement. I will give you the one reason this will not be a V recovery, not going to guarantee stocks won't V here and there, as Venezuela did. The reason is called debt. Debt killed the economy, killed the country, and killed any semblance of capitalism long ago. The debt was the problem in 2008-09, and what did they do? Printed up a whole load of paper money and handed it out. Debt is the problem now, and what have they done? Made loans available to anyone and everyone. Debt is like putting lead weights on a runner. Sooner or later, he falls over from exhaustion and is no longer able to run. Debt is like a parasite sucking the blood out of you. Once the parasite becomes too big, and you can't produce enough blood to overcome its consumption, you die. All they have done is to increase the size of the debt exponentially. Many of you still don't understand that money is debt in our system. If you have not watched my previous videos, please do so, and watch them over and over until you understand exactly what is happening. Printing and loaning will not bring back any economy, but you can bet it will kill it. In 2008 the problem was peak debt. And it's only gotten worse by orders of magnitude. Governments have learned nothing. Let's be honest here. All debt-backed fiat monetary systems rely totally on trust and optimism. Once the Fed was established in 1913, we were on the road to serfdom. Hopefully, you've read Brave New World. The only question is, have we reached our Minsky moment? Not. If we're optimistic, work hard, take personal responsibility, establish sound money, say based upon real things like gold or other commodities. Will this happen? Are you rolling around on the ground laughing? It's our only chance to avoid another FDR-like depression and perhaps a world war, which is how that ended. It wasn't anything the commie FDR did with the economy. But there is another way we could have taken, that of Sweden. That is our control case in this giant economic experiment of shutting down the economy for the flu. The country that didn't do that. Sweden, unlike most Western countries, is not doing a lockdown. They have banned gatherings of more than 50 people and gave Swedes some basic instructions for flu avoidance, but restaurants, shops, schools, and pretty much everything remains open. Experts don't like that. Experts want everyone locked up in their homes and the economy burning. The only V in this recovery will be as in V as for vendetta. This economic collapse began before the pandemic. The Fed began to drop interest rates back to 0% from only 2.5% during January of 2019, before the virus. The Fed began not QE4 during the repo market freeze-up during September of 2019, before the virus. The Fed is going to blame the virus for this economic collapse. The Fed, ECB, IMF, BIS, and other central banks are the virus. After 2008, the Fed just dropped interest rates down to 0% for 10 years, and printed trillions in QE to infinity. The Fed is manipulating all markets and destroying our monetary system. It's not V-shaped. It's two fingers shaped. V-shape only for the rich. The poor will become dirt poor. The middle class will become poor. The upper middle class will become middle class. The rich would like to be called master from now on. It's going to be an M-shaped recovery. Right now, we're at the top of the first leg. Welcome back to the Atlantis Report. You are here for your daily dose of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Even before coronavirus, the economy was doomed to fail. Job growth that was limited to low-paying part-time service industry jobs, taxes cut for the rich, CEOs, giving themselves record bonuses, more money spent on tax buybacks than hiring workers, no investment in smaller communities, etc. This is what do you get when you put the central banking cabal in a blender with the CIA. Global diabolical dystopia. In which there's absolutely zero need for functioning markets. In fact, this is just the start. This push for global diabolical dystopia is exactly what is happening. America, land of the brave, home of the free, must be shown as a police state, then the others will fall in line when this is finished. If those who are orchestrating this dystopia are successful, we will have the same freedom a chicken in his cage or a pig in his pen has. They used this virus to cover up a 50-year Ponzi scheme that was about to collapse in the peak of the baby boomer retirement, that happens to be right now. Make sure the baby boomers can't get the wealth out of their houses because it was the Ponzi scheme money that they stole from their children anyway. Then hyperinflate the currency to get the rest of the fake money back from anyone that had savings or investments. Only the cash rich will qualify to buy homes, scoop the defaulted assets up and rent them out to collect the UBI that is going around. Taxes, food, rent, and gas will skyrocket. Nobody is safe. This is economic Darwinism. Anyone that was paying attention could see this coming a mile away. It's designed to fail. It's not about recovery. It's about transferring wealth and profiting off of default swaps and hedge funds. The great economy that never was. We are already in the Great Depression 2.0. All the numbers have been fudged, and if Americans knew the real numbers, they'd faint out of fear. All the health crisis did was to bring it in the spring instead of the fall. Look at the millions who were behind on their credit card, mortgage, and car loan payments. And heaven helps you if you're married and have knocked up your side piece because she did it on purpose in order to attach herself to your wallet. A V-shaped economy will not be possible until the country shifts from a house of cards service-based economy to a manufacturing one. That will require people willing to pay more for products made in the USA, and for companies to be willing to gamble that they will. That will take years. Or a major war. A month or so, I was ridiculed for saying there would be food shortages this summer. I hope that people who live in houses are turning their backyards and front yards into mini farms. And I hope, instead of buying Xbox games, gadgets and sending strangers online money for posing in their undies, use that money to stock and restock your pantry and get some home gym equipment. The main thing is not to be duped into believing things will return to normal in 2020 or 2021 or 2022. There is nothing, absolutely nothing supporting a return to the old normal. Deficit spending has never been sustainable. There can be no recovery until the debt is either paid off or forgiven. I'm not very hopeful about the second part happening for most folks. Debt is slavery, and that is exactly where the elites want the rest of us to be. People forget there are two economies. One for the rich 1%, and the other for everyone else. Only the rich will get a V-shaped recovery paid for by taxpayers. It's starting to look to me like the infection rates will be just enough to keep the idiot politicians consistently panicking, but not high enough overall to confer effective levels of immunity at any point in the immediate future. The probable scenario is that we hump along in lockdown for a couple of months, open up for a few weeks until rates start to show a modest increase in a few densely packed urban areas, then get locked down again, for years. Of course, the ongoing global depression will be steadily worsening in the background, and we'll probably be dealing with widespread civil unrest and hunger within a year or so, if not mass deaths and Mad Max anarchy. The only real remedy is widespread herd immunity, and the politicians will prevent any chance of that happening by repeatedly locking everything down at the slightest increase in infection rates until the planet is in flames, and they no longer have the ability to do anything. All I see is people panicking over an overhyped virus, which is leading us into an economic morass. My suggestion is to go outside and demand your jobs back before they are gone. The economy isn't going to come back. The casino of bankster gambling capitalism is dead. I guarantee you, most of those people who were laid off will not be coming back to work. People who weather the onslaught will be rewarded with higher compensation, as they should be if they can pick up the slack for 35 extraneous people, but by and large, tectonic shifts are already underway in how we work, consume and socialize. And God forbid Americans actually learn to start living within their means. Round-the-clock footage of food disturbances and other socio-economic ills manifesting in the streets should suffice in convincing some of these somnolent idiots to wake up and start saving more, reconsumption. New cars and phones are going to be luxuries for many going forward. Then there's debt service on this catastrophe, but that's a whole other story. End the Fed. This was the Atlantis Report. Please like, share, subscribe. And please take some time to subscribe to my backup channels, I do upload videos there too. You'll find the links in the description box. You will also find a PayPal link if you want to make a donation. Thank you wholeheartedly to all those of you who have already donated. Stay safe and healthy, friends.